Hello and welcome. I am glad to have you here. In this video, I am going to show you how I built a bed inside my car. For this, I used basic equipment and basic construction materials. I am aware that there might be a lot to improve here, but I still decided to give this idea a try and to take you guys with me along the process. Here is the bed. It consists of 4 parts and one of the parts can be used as a table at the back side of the car. I decided to build this as a kind of extension to the bed. It is standing on a platform which can be used as a shelf together with the table. The second plate is attached to this platform and has some legs on one side, whilst the other side is lying on the back seats. As you can see, the last part is lying on the front seats, which have to be put forward, and thus this part has to be foldable. I also decided to put some legs to this part because it seemed pretty unstable without. Here is a side view of the car with all the seats down, which are marked in white. And as you can see, one part of the bed is lying upon the front seats, which are being stabilized by its legs. It is connected to the second part upon the back seats, which in return is being stabilized by legs inside the trunk. Here, I left out the platform underneath the table for clarity, but it is standing underneath the table part of the bed inside the trunk. Because I wanted the bed to be as stable as possible, I used oriented strand boards of different thickness and size for different parts of my construction. I put the thinner plates at the bottom of my car inside the trunk and inside the footwell in order to distribute the weight of the bed. Then I prepared the legs. For this, I used long wooden bricks with a squared cross section and cut them with a jigsaw in legs of different sizes. In order to put some holes into the legs, I used a drill. I also used a hammer, a screwdriver, and of course some screws to fasten the legs. Because I wanted the front part of the bed to be foldable, I also used some hinges. I used 180 thick plates to build a platform inside the trunk, which is somewhat about 1 meter long and 0.4 meter wide. I measured the distances for the legs so that they will be distributed evenly and marked the spots where I will drill the holes. Because the screws I used had a funnel-like structure, I decided to deepen the holes at the surface for the screw to fit in. Then I marked the drilling spots for the legs and hammered the screws in a bit so that I had a stable spot to drill in. In order to fasten the legs to the board, I first screwed the screw into the plate in a way that it looked out for some millimeters on the lower side, and then I put this part of the screw inside the hole in the leg and screwed the leg to the plate. This is how the platform looks like when finished. I actually had to cut out a corner so that the construction would fit inside the trunk. Together with the middle part, it will be something like this. The measurements of the board I used for the middle part are 1 meter in length and 0.72 meter in width. Because the middle part will lie on the back seats at one side, I needed to fasten the legs only to one side, and as before, I measured the spots where I will drill the holes in a way that the legs will be at an equal distance. If you don't have a drill to make holes, you can use screws and try to drill the hole using a screwdriver. But depending on the wood you use and the proportions, it can break the brick, and thus you have to be very careful. To proceed, I put the plate on the top of a table for stability. And as before, I screwed the screws to the pre-drilled plate only to an extent where the screw can be felt on the lower side. And I put this end of the screw inside the hole in the leg before screwing both parts together. For practical reasons, I decided to cover the legs with an additional plate, which I screwed directly to the legs. For the front part, I used a 1 meter wide and 0.6 meter long plate. The legs here will be standing in the footwell and thus have to be all attached at a distance so that they fit there. In total, I attached 8 legs and 4 to each side, and I left a larger gap between the middle ones. I decided to make the legs foldable because I didn't want to attach them every time I want to use the bed, and I wanted them to be as compact as possible. Thus, I took 2 bricks of equal length, which have to sum to the total length of the legs inside the footwell. Then I connected both parts using a hinge for each leg, which allows me to fold the leg in the middle. This is how it looks like when all the legs are attached to the plate. I decided to put a tension lock to each leg so that the legs will be more stable. In addition to this, I covered everything apart from the table with a piece of fabric to make it softer. Then I connected the front part and the middle part with hinges. Here, it is crucial that the hinges are fastened to the front part on the side where the legs are attached, because this is the part standing in the footwell and it has to face the middle part. Finally, I covered the hinges with an additional piece of fabric. This is how the construction looks like when I put it inside the car. For the table, I used a board somewhat smaller than the platform and I fastened 4 legs to it. The length of the legs has to correspond to the difference in height between the platform and the middle part. This way, the legs are of course too short and do not reach the ground when the table is unfolded, and thus I expanded them by longer bricks that I fastened with tension locks. This allows me to add the legs whenever I need them. When finished, the desk can be put up on the platform and fastened with tension locks to the middle part. So, thank you very much for watching. I really hope that you enjoyed this video because I definitely enjoyed making it. And if you have any comments or simply want to share some ideas, I would appreciate if you use the comment section and leave a comment.